here from the chilly and blustery Northeast with your forecast for the week of December 25th, 2022. It is the very last week of this year, a year that, well, we'll unpack that when we do the forecast for 2023, and that is going to air on December 28th, the day that Mercury stations to go retrograde. Am I tempting fate? Yes, I am tempting the gods, but we'll see what happens. You know, it could be fine. That forecast the major events of 2023, the big astrological events of the year, and then a little summary, a couple of hints, let's call it, for each sign. Can't say much for each sign for an entire year, but a couple little hints to think about as you begin 2023. Yes, this week, 2022 ends, and we're going to have a pretty active week as we wax towards the first quarter moon. So what's going on? Well, Mercury stations to go retrograde on Wednesday the 28th. Of course, it's the time right around the stations, and in his shadow, I think we're already feeling this quite a bit. We tend to get the most dramatic examples of Mercury retrograde. So problems with communication, transportation, and so on. In the sign of Capricorn, I would suggest that it might be the area of contracts and any paperwork having to do with government stuff and so on that will be most likely to have problems. So, you know, think about officialdom and communications with officialdom and so on. That would probably be the area that might have the most liability with Mercury retrograde. On the other hand, one thing about Mercury retrograde is that you really cannot predict with any great certainty because he is a, trickster. So we'll see. But this week, certainly, you want to get your message across in person, if possible, or maybe on the phone. You want to understand that communication may not go through, transportation may not go through as planned. So you want to kind of give others a little bit of leeway, a little bit of space. With Mercury going retrograde, transportation issues, Mars out in Mercury's sign of Gemini, still retrograde, still out of bounds. The caveats, the caution, it's not a caveat, it's a caution about driving remains in effect and will remain in effect for quite some time. So keep that in mind. Folks are going to be a little extra charged. Okay, so we do wax towards the first quarter moon, the active first quarter moon in Aries. We will see the moon pass by Neptune in Pisces, and then Jupiter newly into Aries. So we'll get some look at that kind of energy as the week progresses. We have pretty much all of the planets bunched together at this point in time, which means that we have a lot of activity, but not a lot of perspective. So that's important to just sort of file in the back of your mind. A lot of activity, not necessarily a lot of perspective on things. Important point. Okay. The big activity this week, though, is actually very harmonious. We have Mercury, he may be going retrograde, but he's still making aspects. Neptune in his home sign of Pisces, Venus in Capricorn, and Pallas Athene and Juno, who's out in the end of Pisces, all making harmonious aspects with each other, right? So Juno, the partnership asteroid, Pallas Athene, the truth teller asteroid. I always refer to her because she's like, this is the goddess of wisdom, the goddess who carries a spear. So, you better listen. This isn't the quiet school marm kind of wisdom. This is the you better listen. So they're all making harmonious aspects, and that really starts on the 24th, and it goes all the way through the 28th, and the lingering effect as we go a little bit more forward. It kind of puts relationships in focus, and it is very positive energy for relationships, more or less. Things that you might see happening, take it all together and not worry about the details so much. It's a good time to open up communication. The text may get lost or something like that, but it's still a good time to open up communication. Reestablishing communication is certainly suggested by this. It's also on a more internal basis. It's the ability to get what you want, Venus, and what you actually have, Juno, or don't have, Juno, on the same page. That is, you can work it out for yourself. This is where I am with things. This is what's important to me. This is what I need in relationships. This is what I want in relationships. And then, and this is what I have or don't have in relationships. And that's the equation that you work out within yourself. Although if you're working this out with a partner or something, there should be some pretty good energy for that. Just make sure that the communication is, let's call it, careful. Let's say that the communication should be, thought out, step by step. Mercury's going retrograde. He's in Capricorn, though, so there's a sort of step by step kind of energy that goes with it. So you want to be precise. You want to be sure that you're really communicating what you mean to say. Given that, there should be quite a bit of potential for getting stuff explained if you're talking to others. There's also, in terms of action, there's a great deal of flexibility in all of this. There's the potential for, just sort of changing routines, shifting. I would say, plans may be disrupted. I wouldn't be at all surprised if plans are disrupted as we move through this holiday week. But you can probably come up with an alternative plan and sort of move things into a different sort of, plan B or C or D or whatever it is might be just as good if you just sort of open to it. So those are some hints for the week. Now, as we get to New Year's Eve, all of a sudden things change a little bit, and Venus meets with Pluto. Actually, Venus meets with Pluto in the earliest hours of New Year's Day, 2023, in most places. If you're on the East Coast of the US or if you're in Europe, it happens early on New Year's Day. However, the energy will be quite strong on New Year's Eve. That's when you'll be feeling it. It doesn't really make all that much of a difference. But you know how it is. As you get to New Year's, you make resolutions. And this year, you may have New Year's revolutions. Around the area of relationship, you may find that the internal processing that you've done during the week leads you to make some decisions that you are implementing as the new year begins. And then we might have, with Venus conjunct Pluto, if it's about relationship or finances, we may find that we have resolutions that stick this year. So I think as we get to New Year's Eve, there will be folks who are either making or breaking commitments. Right? This is very much a Venus-Pluto thing. Venus meets with Pluto every year. And, it is really about making or breaking commitments, but that it happens right on New Year's Day, and you have that sense of the old year is out and the new year is in. It's sort of, the calendar and the astrological aspects line up in such a way as to really suggest this kind of, gonna do this or not gonna do this anymore type of thing. So we have to be careful for Mercury retrograde, as always, especially having to do with contracts and things that are of official nature. It's a good week for, a relationship that's in a good spot. This is a good week for it. And we may have some changes of plans, but if you keep an open mind, that should be fine. Plan B is fine. Plan C is just as good, or, doesn't work out like you thought it was going to, enjoy what you got. That's Venus and Juno being on the same page. We're at the active first quarter moon, but with Mercury stationing to retrograde and Mars already retrograde, I wouldn't say that is a terrific time to initiate things, other than fun. And at the end of the week, as we get to New Year's Eve, It looks like it could be deadline time in one way or another, make or break commitments. You don't have to, you don't have to. If you're not feeling for it, don't do it, because well, it makes good sense on the astrology forecast. Don't do it. But if you're thinking about it, and you've been sort of tossing around the idea, and you've been working with the idea that you're going to either get into something, get it to the next level, or perhaps get out of something, then I would say that it's quite likely that as the new year begins, or as the old year ends, it's time for action. Wow. Okay. You should subscribe, because otherwise you have to remember that thing that's going to happen on the 28th, the forecast for the year 2023. It's going to be really interesting. We're going to go back a little bit over 2022, look into 2023. As I said, but I can repeat myself because Mercury retrograde. It's going to be something for each sign. And if you subscribe, then you don't have to worry about not remembering. You'll just get the notification. Hit the little bell so you get the notification. I'm just saying. It's for you. It's for you. I don't get anything out of it. So it's for you. Anyways, Happy New Year, or happy holidays and things like that. All the holidays are still going on and everything this week. And I will see you next week.